good evening, and welcome to yet another edition of the Island Stats Football Show. Today is Sunday, January 17th. Good evening to everyone. I'm your host, Earl Bass, and I'm joined by co-hosts Maceo Dill, Garrett Punchy Dill, and tonight we will feature several gentlemen involved in football, looking to assist, if I say it right, youngsters, giving them a pathway to not just football, but education as well. We have the co-founder of Bermuda Brazilian Football School, Mr. Dennis Brown. We also have a new coach to Bermuda Brazilian Football School, Dante Lavrock. We're joined by Dr. Lou Simmons, who is another co-founder of Bermuda Brazilian Football School, and Brian Martin, who is the president of the Bermuda Soccer International over in Maryland. First of all, gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Bass.
Good evening.
All right. Dennis, give us a sense of how long Bermuda Brazilian Football School has been around and what's been the main focus for the organization.
Okay, thanks for having us, Earl and Maceo and Punchy. Before I start, I just want to extend my condolences to the family of Anthony Porky Manders. Porky was a member of my under-17, 1980 national youth team that got to the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF World qualifying World Cup. So, and then over the years, got to play against Porky, against Danny Deton, Somerset and Danny Deton over the years. So I just want to, on behalf of Brazilians, Bermuda's Brazilian Football School, I just want to extend my condolences to his family. Bermuda's Brazilian School, Bermuda's Brazilian Football School was a brainchild of myself and Dr. Llewellyn Simmons from the year 2008. Originally, it was supposed to go to Somerset Cricket Club. We basically offered it to Somerset Cricket Club at that time. But due to the fact that, they were slow in responding, one of the things that we talked about is that we could have affected a greater number of kids around the Hill Island. So we basically decided to not just have it in Somerset Cricket Club, but we wanted to take it to the Hill Bermuda. And since then, we've I would say we've coached over 2,000 to 3,000 kids have come through the program. At that time, the program was basically just weekly training sessions, which brings us to where we are now. We are now taking teams all over Europe, all over the United States, all over Canada. So now we're looking to basically expand by adding the education component, that's where Mr. Brian Martin comes in and stuff like that. So we are definitely taking off from where we started to where we are now.
You bring up Mr. Martin, who is actually working with you on a venture over in Maryland. Can you elaborate just a little more on what Mr. Martin's process is in this, and then we can speak to him about how this has actually worked out? Okay,
this I would say this has been like a dream since Brian and I got together, and we got together about 7 years ago, where I was invited up to do a camp in Calvert County, Maryland, and the relationship just really took off between Brian and myself. I hadn't seen Brian Brian used to go Warwick Sec. I used to go Warwick Sec, and we basically just contacted each other via email, and it really just took off. So what happened was I had been going to Maryland to do my camp, to do the camps for about 4 years. And after 4 years, after each camp, we always sat down to find out what we could do better, for the following year. So one of the things we talked about was giving Bermuda players an opportunity, or Bermuda youngsters an opportunity to go up to high school. So we got, and Brian's going to talk about the high school program and stuff like that. And at the time, I was coaching at Robin Hood. At that time, they were the under 15s. And what we did was invite some of the parents or some of the players to have a look at, leaving Bermuda at the age of 14. I heard Punchy and Macy and these guys talking about leaving as early as possible, and I'm definitely for that. So we basically sent, I believe, and Brian could correct me on this, I think we sent like 9 14-year-olds up to this school in Calvert County, Maryland, and most of them are getting ready to graduate high school, and most of them have been accepted into colleges, and that's what we, that's the thing that we wanted to do, is create early pathways for our young men and women, and we'll also talk about what David Bascom's going to be doing with the same school when it comes to the girls. So this is a big opportunity for a lot of our young, aspiring, educated, sports educating children. So we just want to create the pathway for our kids moving forward.
Yeah. Good evening, Brian Martin. Thank you for coming on. Obviously, with your background of being in Bermuda and all, how did these kids fit into the program? Because as we all know, Bermudians have that laid back type of atmosphere. They have the natural skill and all that, but when they get into an environment of the unknown, some tend to not do as well as others. But how did these kids adjust to life, I guess, without parents right at the doorstep?
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here, see all the Bermudian faces. Yeah, it was a challenge, Earl. I mean, when you talk about taking kids out of the nest and coming out to boarding school, it was a big piece. The common connection was me, because parents felt a little bit more secure having, another Bermudian involved with them. I live probably about 5 miles from the school, so haircuts, taking them places, doing different things outside of football really made the parents feel a lot better. So, just following up on Dennis, we started this camp, we hooked up with Bermuda Brazilian and my organization, Bermuda Soccer International. And then it sort of went into recruiting kids from Bermuda for our program. We're also affiliated with DC United and the Calverton School. So it's a big draw. We draw kids not just from Bermuda, but all over the world. We got kids from Hong Kong, Cayman Islands, all over North America that come here also for not just the school organization, which we call DC Calverton, but for the DC United piece, right, as a pathway to pro. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. We've been doing good. This is our 3rd year in having the borders here, and we'll probably had about 12, 13 guys. We're switching over to girls with the partnership we just went into with David Bascom, and doing the girls piece, to duplicate what we're doing with the boys. All the boys, we are 100% of taking the boys from the high school level now to the college level, to getting scholarships, D2, D3, D1 scholarships. We brought in a scout that helped them secure these scholarships. So it's a lot of moving parts, but the key piece is, the connection that I have to Bermuda first. Bermuda's my home. I love Bermuda, always trying to do what I can for the kids, and everyone here is all a part of the network of making that happen, right? I'm at the end of the line, but you guys and everybody here, Dennis and Dr. Lou and everybody, is on the front end on figuring out who kids are coming and how we can make it work for them.
Yeah, I'm going to get to Dr. Lou, but I want to ask, Maceo, you have any questions?
Yeah, most definitely. I do. First of all, to the Brazilian, thank you for the network that you put together to develop Bermudians, and to Dennis and his team. Definitely for me, I've seen, being around football, I've seen the technical skills that these players have developed through your program, that help their football sort of ambitions. My question would be, and this aligns with a conversation that we've been having about scouting and using our resources that are overseas, collectively. How do we package such a program like what you guys are doing to benefit? And I know the challenges of benefiting the masses, but how do we challenge it through our education system, through our BFA, to benefit much more people?
I'll let Lou go on that one first.
Well, first of all, good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. And Islandsted's team, on that particular question is a very important question. And, we have seen the importance of course, not just networking with the FA, because we do have that connection in terms of just, from the football respect perspective, in terms of letting them know the programs that we're putting on. But I believe we begin to have the opportunity to extend these opportunities by networking the clubs, because our students or player participants, they come from diverse clubs across the island. And I think that's a plus for us. I think it helps to break down those barriers and open up those opportunities for young players and young people across the different clubs. So I believe that's one of the venues or avenues I think we can, that we are taking to reach a diverse group of young people across the island.
Yeah. Punchy?
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. Happy New Year to you all. Dennis, Mr. Martin, I'm so glad to have you all here. As you know, this show is new, it's very new, and I'm very glad to be a part of it. The question that I want to ask, Lou, how are you? Do you think our schools are doing the correct thing in terms of coordinating education with sports? Do you think we're doing enough? So let's say we can form an elite program. Are we still lacking parts of that? So that good sportsmen are already have been, you kind of know when they're 10 years old, okay, he goes to Montenegro. Yes, let's have a good look at, have we created an environment which has been lacking? I think there's an environment been lacking between the sport that is school program and the national program or the club program. Do you think we're still got a ways to go with that, to compete with teams, to beat the countries like the United States and Canada? And I keep thinking about our region. Are we doing enough of this?
The answer is no, Punchy. We're lacking, and unfortunately, it requires probably a collective advocacy from persons like who are participating in this particular discussion, along with the FA, along with our own regional clubs. I think the weakness to bring that to fruition is really at, of course, the status issue at our club levels. Our club level organizationally are very weak. And so if you don't do anything to strengthen and show the value of what comes out of there to partner with our schools, then we're not going to develop conceptually what you're talking about. Even at the national level, we're a far cry from what we used to be. And what we used to be, we had nowhere near the resources we currently have now. We have all the access to the resources and nowhere near the access to the young people and the top footballers in our schools. You and I and Dan is, we're of an era where the national coach had an inroad into the schools, right? And they were a part of that. I'm talking about 70s and 80s here. They were a part of that, going into the schools, and they interacted with certain phys ed programs. And so you had that engagement. But no, we're a far cry from achieving what you're talking about. And a lot has to do with the fact that, we don't value developmentally in Bermuda the greater opportunities and potential on a mass scale. We're very good at this individual or this club maybe, but we don't, not on a national level. And what you're talking about warrants a national mindset. So no, to answer your question, we're a far cry achieving that.
Yeah.
Coach Keita?
Good evening, everyone. Hey, Uncle Dennis, how you doing? Good day today. My question, in your program, NCAA Clearinghouse, do you guys provide that for your players? Because I have a player right now who is attempting to get into a college and hasn't started that process. On Island, I know that Freddie Evans, Dr. Evans, and Darren Lewis do a little bit with that. I think a lot of parents are not even aware of the process of the NCAA clearinghouse. So do you guys, is that a part of your program?
Yeah, I guess that's to me. I got it. Yes, that is, and that has to start pretty early, right? On getting registered and paying. It's a numbers game for them, but you got to get registered, and that's got to happen. A lot of things that I see what's happening is the disconnect is not only the kids. We can take these kids and their skill level and put them up against anyone, right? That's not the issue. The issue is what's in between the ears and them being very coachable and them being able to take instruction and do it as we're going through kids right now on just getting through the process for college applications and understanding the process. Not only is that a lot of work, but there must be a sense of urgency, and that has to come in connection with the parents in having that sense of urgency with the kids. We're not on Bermuda time, right? And when these coaches come and they say, hey, I'm interested in your son or daughter, it's go time. And you have to stop whatever you got going on to get it done. And it's a big disconnect, and I think it's a big piece that we are now adding to another part of our program to add to help educate these parents and the kids together so that they understand the NCAA clearinghouse, how to get registered, how to do simple applications for college, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's a big piece of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to speak with the national captain and new coach, Mr. Dante Lavrock. We'll be right back.
Perrier water has been renowned worldwide for over a century and a half. Collected from a pristine ancient mineral water spring in the south of France, originally bottled in a distinctive green pear-shaped bottle, and distributed in Bermuda by John Barry & Son Limited, our foremost beverage distributor, refreshing Perrier is the champagne of mineral waters. Try Perrier water in bold, natural fruit flavors with no added sugar and 0 calories. This month, we're featuring peach, strawberry, watermelon, orange, pink grapefruit, lime, cucumber, and regular Perrier water in cans. Lindos, why go anyplace else?
Well, Dante, you're a new coach in with the Bermuda Brazilian Football School. Take us through how you got involved and basically what your mission in this role is.
I mean, the answer to your questions is pretty simple. I've had a lot of admiration and respect for Coach Brown because not only is he one of the top quality coaches on the island, but I feel I always related to him with the mental aspect of the game. He always had the standards and the level that I've learned in my career and my journey in education as well. You have to have the discipline and the mindset to push past them initial feelings that you feel. He reached out to me and asked, would I be interested? And I didn't hesitate. And then speaking with Dr. Llewellyn and Brian Martin, he has a good team around him. So I'm excited to be involved in any capacity that I need to be. My main focus now, being back on island, is not only to be a coach, but to be a mentor to the children, because coming back and seeing the football scene in Bermuda, it's to be honest, it's difficult to watch and now be a part of. I don't understand a lot of things that happen or why it is here. However, and I feel that I can make a change as well, and being part of Brazilian can give me an outlet to help 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, however amount of kids that it is, to help them to reach their dreams, whether it's in education, whether it's in football, whether it's in another sport. I just want to help the Bermudian children, because that's important, because at the end of the day, these are the young people that's going to lead for our future. It's crazy saying that now, because a couple years ago I was one of them, and now I'm now a coach, so that transition's been crazy in itself. But I'm very excited to just even be a part of Brazilian, and I just want to do what I can.
All right, so I do have another question. About how many students, how many young people do you have in your program currently, both locally and overseas? Where do you guys train out of? Where do you train from?
Who's the question to, Coach?
Whoever's in charge of the program, like how many players do you currently have registered in your program? How many young people are in the Brazilian? And is it mixed gender, or are you just boys? I have had some players that have been a part. I believe I've had some females that have been a part of it. Do you have many females in the program now? And if so, are they on island, off island?
I'll answer as far as Dennis. You got to unmute. I'll answer till you get on, Dennis. But out here, I have 22 players from not just Bermuda, but from all over the world. I want to say 11 of those players came from Brazilian.
Okay. Any females that you know of that are from Bermuda on that side?
Females, we're just getting into females right now with David Bascom. We just brought him into our circle, and David deals with the, as everyone knows, on the girls' side. So that's our plan 2021. He just came aboard with the school, and we'll be running the girls' program, the school program, and the team, the league program.
And you speak of his school. What is the age of that school? What is it, prep? What is the age of that? What age can they enter the school?
All right, great. Boys and girls is co-ed, and the school is the Calverton School. It's in Southern Maryland, Huntington, Maryland, and you can get in middle school. I mean, from 8th grade to 12th grade. So it's a high school, basically middle school, and it's an elementary school all in one. So depending on, the kid, the boy or girl, but for the boarding school part of it, they take them from 8th grade to 12th grade.
And is it boarding, or do they have to have those families?
It's boarding school.
It's a boarding school, okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Mace, are you talking, Mace? You're muted. Maceo, are you asking a question? You're muted. Maybe not. Earl has just had some technical difficulties, guys. He is actually trying to fix his computer. So if there's any other important information, that we need to know, there are a host of people that are online. And I had to ask the clearinghouse question because a lot of parents don't have any idea. Most parents believe my child got scouted, or my child wants to go to school. They register, they sign up for college, and a lot of them find out at the last minute. So I have players that actually find out in S3, late S3 or early S4 that you guys have to go through this process. And I believe it was something that the guidance counselors were doing. They may still do it. I don't know. I haven't really had that conversation up until yesterday when one of my parents asked or said that her child was applying to a school but was missing all of that portion.
I think I figured out my mic now, Nikita. Am I able to
Yes.
be heard?
Yes, I hear you. Yes.
Keita, could I just expand a little bit?
Yes.
So what we're looking to do now is relaunch our program and also expand our membership drive. So I want people to be on the lookout for some marketing stuff coming from us in relation to signing up for our programs. What we're looking to do is, like you said, create that pathway for our kids. And one of the pathways that we're going to be creating is taking kids to see the schools in Maryland. And that's going to be basically around the same time as our camp. So our camp is every year, it's the week before Cup match. We always finish up the Friday before Cup match because I like to be here to see Somerset beating off with St. George's. But at the end of the day, it's a big long camp. And what we're looking to do this year is to invite, and we're going to be moving around to invite players, whether it be male or female, because few females have come through our program over the years, like Lalani trained with us like when she was 6-7 years old. We've had a lot of successes that have come through our program. Not to say that just because they were with Brazilian where they are now. People like Ken Critchlow came to us when he was 8, from 8 to like 12. Jared Richardson, Diego Richardson, and even now Johnny Bertram came to us from the age of 5 right on up to when he went over to England. So we've had
Dennis, if I may chime in.
And we just deal with football. You know what I mean? It's also about teaching our young men and women to be productive citizens in our society. Because my last profession, I worked in the prison, and one of the things that Dr. Simmons and I always talked about was creating the total person, rather than male and female. So that's all that is. So I want people to look out for a lot of our advertisements that will be coming out in relation to people becoming members of Bermuda's Brazilian football.
So I have a question, a comment. I mean, again, what you guys are doing is actually brilliant as to the services of the holistic piece of people, and what it shows what you're doing is the resources that we actually have available to ourselves. I mean, with Brian being overseas in Baltimore, we do have these resources. Now with Dr. Llewellyn talking about the weakness of some of our programs, the weakness of what happens in education, or the weakness of what happens in clubs. How do we go about fixing those weaknesses and building something comprehensive? Because what I see what you guys are doing, I know of the quality piece of it from a piece of player development. That's evident with the likes of Jared, King, Critchlow, as what they could do with a ball, and also how they are as people. Yeah. So me and you, Dennis, have talked about it in our roles at the coaching associate, creating some sort of regional academies that feed into our national program or our school system. What is your take on that too? Because again, I'm on how to get the service that you guys provide to the wider masses, and figuring out how to break down our tribal pieces. I mean, you guys talked about trying to take this to Somerset, wasn't really received that well, and you're moved anyway. How we have to move a country now? What do we do to that? I'm still on. How do we collectively do that, man?
But if I may, because Dennis knows I have a real pet peeve about this one. And the evidence of what we are currently doing, I know, Mason, you and I have had some street conversation, alluding and speaking to the same thing. And it certainly warrants us networking our diverse skills. The mere fact that we are networking with David Boscombe is a plus and strength of our development. We're branching out, we're extending our network using the strengths of what Boscombe's program can bring to our program, vice versa. But it's not just the program, it's the knowledge and skill sets of those persons in it. I like coaching and I like the tactical aspects of football. I mean, in full sincerity, I have no interest right now in coaching. I have a lot of interest in terms of what is the general management and the development of the organization. And that is what is required. When you look at the network of us here, and we look at what the current issue status of Bermuda football is all about, warrants us really, who among us is going to exercise the leadership to challenge our national body, the FA, to bring its affiliates and all of us who have an interest in football to have our own football summit to be about Bermuda's development in football. Happen. I mean, when I say it, really, it hasn't happened to me. I mean, I know there's been some period where FA have called their affiliates together, but not what we're talking about. Right. What we're going to do right now to network all of our knowledge and skills from persistence to strength. You know, it's no different a formula than setting your team out for the day. Lou might think it's the striker, but you can play and go today because that's your strength. That's how you best assist the team.
Right.
And so it's the same thing. I may and can coach. Lavrock and Dennis and Brian are the best people for this. Where for me, I'm probably best to assist other network of persons around bringing and bridging key to those parents' needs and their students and their children in being NCAA registered. Those are things that you network in the school. And so I'm saying, to answer your question, when you listen right now in this country where we're talking about signature schools,
right?
Sports school was one of the signature schools. I agree with the sports school, but I understand conceptually. I don't agree with it because I don't think we enough of those high quality, because I believe all of our children should be exposed to some degree of what the sports character provides to assist in their development in other areas, right? So right now, to accomplish what you're talking about, it warrants us, we're having this conversation, this streaming, what is our commitment to challenge the FA and club with their program? Why is it we don't have a summit that speaks to our collective value and interest? If GOTA is overseas conceptualizing something for Bermudian kids in a boarding school over there, what's the conversation with those of us here who know education. He may have those people in the UK who know education, but they don't have the cultural relevance that the rest of that a kid is going to bring to those children. You see what I'm saying? So those are the type of tough conversations that we have to have that breaks down some of the tribalism that you talked about. Tribalism is not just from club to club on the playing field. There's a lot of tribalism that goes on in terms of the management, right, of our clubs, of our teams, of these programs. That's what makes this a beautiful program, and credit to you, Earl, and Punchy, and Mace, and Keita, that you're having this. I can go on all day, Mace. You know,
I know. I'll
but
still be a fire, man.
It's really a pet peeve. It's a pet peeve of mine because our solutions are right in front of us. But where's our conviction and purpose to do what we say we need to do? Let's get past the egos and the personalities and use the strengths that we have to accomplish what we say we want to accomplish for Bermuda's children.
We're going to take another commercial break, but when I come back, Dennis, I want you to answer this question. As Dr. Liu was saying, challenging. Why can't we challenge ourselves? And I want you to answer that. And in regards to that, it's meaning, why can't, if you have a coaches association, why can't we challenge the coaches to come up with an idea of how we can channel things through their clubs? We'll be right back.
This month, we're featuring a range of infant and baby care products from Hello Bello, a company started up by a husband and wife team who were inspired to meet the challenges arising from the often surprising, not to mention messy, experiences that came with the territory known as parenting. The couple behind Hello Bello know that being a parent is uniquely demanding, and their mission is to bring you premium products at gentle prices. Try Hello Bello Apple Blossom Baby Lotion, Lavender Shampoo and Body Wash, Flushable Wipes, Diaper Rash Cream, Lavender Bubble Bath, and more. Lindos. Why go anyplace else?
Welcome back. Dennis? Just unmute your mic. Your mic's muted.
Sorry. One of the challenges that I always saw in my, I would say, 30 years of coaching in Bermuda is one of the things Lou just said, in relation to egos. For small community, and this may ruffle some feathers, but to me, it's too many egos. Coaching is not rocket science. Coaching is about learning something, trying to learn something new every single day. I'm a type of coach, I'm 57 years old, going 58, and I'm still got my learners on. Because as far as I'm concerned, if I think I do everything as a coach, you know, there's no room for learning, there's no room for growth. And to me, there is the ego part when it comes to a lot of our coaches in Bermuda. Keep everything close to their chest, then they could share information. You know, I'm the type of person that I'll share with anybody. I can work with anybody when it comes to coaching. I mean, my coaching record speaks for itself, but, you know, I don't get above myself. I want to still keep learning. So the thing that really gets next to me, and even being a part of the BFCA, on the executive, the Coaches Association, is we need to work more together as coaches and share more of our ideas. So if Somerset has a good program, or PHC has a good program, why not share with Southampton Rangers, or why Somerset don't share with Somerset Eagles in order to get their youth program up and running and stuff like that. So it's about, you know, the more quality that we have as far as coaching goes, you know, the more quality player that we can create over time. But, you know, we have to get over the ego part first, and then look to work together and the greatest component of this is the kids. You know what I mean? In my opinion, the greatest component is the kids and the player. You know, so our philosophy at Brazilian is about team. You know, over the years, Cal Blanket there was the CEO at that time. Now we have Mr. Jonathan Freitas as the CEO. But you know, if you put our egos aside, Cal's the Danny Tom boy, Ozzy Somerset boy, Louis the Somerset boy. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing was educating our kids on and off the field in Bermuda and outside of Bermuda. So the biggest part for me is the ego part, getting over there.
Yeah, Doc. Before I go to Punchy, Doc, how do we start the conversation of leaving the egos at the door before you come in to open up a conversation?
Well, I think we have to let's extend the invitation under the auspices of the Bermuda Football Association and Island Stats, or maybe under the auspices of Island Stats. First, put the invitation out there and clearly lay out what the aims, goals, and objectives of this summit meeting that we're talking about. You know, and we clearly, in having everyone at this summit, at this conference, we're clearly laying out, look, this isn't about our egos. It's very purpose-driven. It's purpose-driven, you know, for the intent of improving the quality of football and opportunities across Ireland for our young people, for our clubs. And we can lay out, let's have the brainstorm first around what we want to do. And so I think the invitation has to be there first, Earl. And in that invitation, we're clearly spelling out and letting people know, here's the purpose of this here. And maybe at the dinner table, we have everyone there and we're saying, look, this isn't about our egos. Everyone is bringing knowledge, skills, and gifts to what we want in terms of the improvement of football in Bermuda. So I believe we have to extend the invitation first and see who shows up.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah. Punchy?
I've got a couple of questions. I got a couple of questions for Dante and Dennis. So thank you very much for the concept that you are now going to provide in this country. Dante, my grandson is back here. Remy Cottington wants to work with you. But I'm going to make this, I'm also going to address Dr. Lou Simmons also. Okay. For me, I thought of that concept a long time ago about actually what the clubs are missing to. If a player needs to be developed, he needs to probably come to your academy. 1, 2. And let me tell you the concept that I had. I'm gonna make this short. We go back 10 or 15 years when I first got my coaching badge. I took, and my nephew I took a group of guys overseas to play in a tournament, and we did really well. But I had a concept. And Streak was only 15 years old. Macy was about 15. So we had a concept. I took some senior members with me. See, I like the concept that Dante and Dennis and with Lou, at least we're having the conversations about a concept. So Dante and Dennis, what is the concept that's been missing in this country? Because Dante, you played wherever I know you, I mean, keeping up with where you played. What is the concept that's not been adapted in this country that we're missing? Because I think you guys are on the right path. Because even that it says Southern Rangers call you, and I need to develop my son habits not good. What are we missing here? Have we not? This is what I'm saying to you. This is what I find so amazing that it's happening now, which has been overlooked. And again, the education, Dr. Lou Simmons. Why is it, if I'm not trying to be aware about the national program, have you been contacted and kind of give us a program that we need that's been overlooked? Maybe Dennis and Dante can answer me first about what the program is really about. And Dr. Lou Simmons, you're going to answer me that other part. Have you been addressed by the Football Association about what we're doing here? What are we doing for this country? To educate footballers, whether they are athletic, whether it's swimmers, what are we doing, the whole concept? Because we do have it here. We're a small country, but I think a lot of what we're doing here is the beginning of something that should get us to another level. So again, Dante and Dennis, maybe you can answer. I'm sorry to everyone. Maybe you can answer that first question. What is your academy about? And have you been contacted by any coaches for maybe from Boulevard, we need to develop a player. Would you be able to help with if they ask you?
Yeah, I would just answer that first and then don't take it go on. One of the main aspects of Brazilian training is increasing your individual skill. We put the onus on the player. So what happens is we provide the tools and you have to use those tools. So what would happen each week is you'll come to our sessions and to answer your question, we could train anyone from someone who couldn't control a ball 5 times, and then you'll see them the next year controlling the ball over 1,000 times. So that's what we look to do. We look to challenge the player. Increase training time. You cannot get better in this game if you're training just twice a week. So we put the onus on you. If you're coming to our session today, we're going to give you homework to go home and do that homework and then catch you next week to basically see what you've done. So you'll find that you'll see players improving every single week. And I could bring some guys to you today that couldn't control a ball like 5 times when he first started with us. But through his hard work and dedication, this young man is controlling the ball like it was 3,000 times, and this took him like 2 years to be like that. Not to say that, just because you're good in juggling that you're going to be a good footballer. But I'll say if you're good and comfortable in juggling, that goes a long way to increase your confidence on the ball when you're playing. So one of the things that we looked at, Lou and I looked at over the years was individual skill. Coming through Somerset's program, we had guys like Trix Richardson, watching Trix Richardson, Bernard Brangman, Reggie Tuckers, and then we came up to Troy Barclays and Courage Bells and Anthony Daly's, and just look at and we always talk about looking at the players back in the day, but at the end of the day, a lot of these guys had good individual skill. And and look at the center backs back in the day. Before me was guys like Kenny Keane, Willis Keane. My favorite player, one of my favorite players used to be Marcus Douglas, and he wasn't even a treasure, but I liked the fact that he liked to attack and he was comfortable on the ball. One of my favorite players was Brandon Wally Baxter, who was more comfortable on the ball than Wally and Lorenzo Simons. So at the end of the day, our thing is to make sure that every player that comes through our program is comfortable in possession, whether it's the goalkeeper, right on up to the number 9 Lucy striker. So the onus is on the individual to get yourselves better, and we put pressure on you to get we don't sugarcoat anything with any player. We will put pressure on you. If you come to our program, we will put pressure on you to make sure that you're a better player next week than you were this week. And that goes for girls and the boys, because we don't ease up the girls when they come to our program either. The girls train with the boys, so that makes them get stronger. That makes them think faster when they're in small-sided games. We do a lot of small-sided stuff, although one of our emphasis is futsal. But we teach the basic fundamentals of the game when it comes to passing, receiving, opening your body and stuff like that, and being comfortable and taking players on one-on-one and stuff like that. So yes, Punchy, we can coach anybody. We can assist any club. If the club needs assistance, they will send our players to us, and we will make them better players in the long run for not just our clubs, but for the community.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I gotta jump in before Dr. Lou. Sorry, I'm jumping over here. So I'm just gonna make it very clear, right? Bermuda Brazilian, that's our relationship that we have, right? So every kid that we get over here at the Calverton School is a recommendation from Bermuda Brazilian, okay? So we get the player, they come to Calverton. They're here 3-4 years. We take them to the North American style of playing football and the ins and out of the business and the education of football. Then we get them into college for a 4-year program on a higher level of football, right? 4 years. Then what we should have at the end of that product is a national team player that's able to come to Bermuda and play at the level that we would want him or her to play at, right? To take the country to another level. As we talk about tribal stuff and Somerset and Dandytown, all that, I'm glad I'm not in that seat, right? Because that's a lot, right? So that's why it's so simple. The Bermuda Brazilian piece, get your kids out there, get them to Bermuda Brazilian, let's get them trained up, let's get the one-on-one, let's get them through the system, we get them out here, and then we take them to the next level.
Yeah. And Mr. Lou Simmons, Dr. Lou Simmons, again, the question I asked you, if you can answer that, about the national program, you being involved with the national education program with that. I hope you've been asked. I'm hoping so.
Well,
I think there's still a gap that you're missing here.
It's been a long time, Punchy. I mean, have we been asked recently? No, it hasn't. Right. We haven't received anything. I mean, the last time we probably saw something, and Darren Lewis was on board as my education officer for physical education. And there was some collaboration during that time in terms of the FA and the whole scheme of having the national and technical director and coaches come into the schools and do something. Everyone, I mean, Andrew has tried it, Kenny has tried it, Clive Bass has tried it. Go down the line. And I'm talking what we're talking between 10 and 15 years, right? So this hasn't occurred. And it's necessary. If we're to develop what you're talking about, it has to be a clear, definitive program by the FA that says, we want to come into the schools and do this and work with PE teachers and students around football. It's the same thing. Arnold Mender, for example, has attempted to do the same thing with cricket, right? So it's a big challenge for us as you talk about the challenge. The challenge really is getting our people to understand that if we are to conceptually build a national program that directs our young people not just to the high levels of the local game at the national level and going international at the college level. Brian talked about that when you talk about what's over at Calverton. But we have to put these things in place. And it's what we have to do here. And again, I go right back to, again, what is our conviction and purpose to call together people who say we have an interest in football development and come with some clear aims and goals. And here's what we're going to talk about and make it action oriented, right? An example of this here. We have, and I'm going to use Coach Keita, I'm going to use Dante. Two beautiful young people who are young, they're in it, they want to do some things. Maceo probably saw it, but between you, Dennis, and I, we represent probably the last of Bermudian footballers who, Earl, you would be knowledgeable of this also, but the Bermudian player has, and I'm talking locally in clubs, must have the experience and opportunity of playing against better opposition. Right? We don't get that. Our era, remember, when the college boys or university boys came home, who did we play with and against? We played against our peers who were home here playing in the local league. Not only that, consistently, we had international clubs, university, high quality, coming to this island playing against us. You would remember University Alabama A&M and Howard. Those were high quality international university teams because their players were all international level. Had the opportunity of exposing Bermuda players yearly, sometimes 4 times a year, playing games foreign opposition, right? And so players got to see the barometer of what their skill sets were, playing against not just those of us who played overseas in university, but those who came from other universities and professional teams. We played against them. I believe that the current Bermudian player in our leagues must have that type of exposure and challenge if we are to develop their football. And I take nothing from the Bermudian footballer who goes to England and plays for a tier 3-4 club. Hey, those are the opportunities that are available to them. It's professional, and we see the difference in that mindset of player. And they come home, but it's not enough of them experience, not enough of them coming home in a day in the arena that we talk about. I think we have to create that type of opportunity to assist with the challenge that you're talking about, Punchy, as we talk about the FA developing the importance of the national program in our schools. Even if we just focus on the primary school, you know, if the national program can't get into all this at the senior level, focus on just the primary school kids. That's all. Focus on that level and provide the program. But I think the footballing fraternity has to present that probably to the FA leadership to make it happen.
Thank you.
Dante, you were asked a question as well.
Yeah.
I think it's simple. As you said, you took a group of kids away to play. I remember I was under 12s. Kenny Thompson took a group over to Holland, and we were in Ajax, played PSV, all these guys. We went to watch a game. Ajax played Vitesse, and Ibrahimovic was playing for Ajax then. And I knew instantly, I was like, you know what? You know, this is what I want to do. This is the level that I want to be at. So as you just said, now your mindset's changing as a kid. You're seeing different environments. You're not in Bermuda. You're not the best player. You know, you're seeing these guys who, it was a young kid who juggled 400 times one time. Didn't drop it. You just put on a show for us at the Ajax Academy. And number two, it's accountability for the player. When I was younger, I was playing every day. Every day. Now, again, you're training twice a week. Even players now, you have a player at under 17 level or under 20 level who can do a push-up. You know, can run for 2 miles under 12 minutes. These are things that I had to learn as soon as I went to college in England. I realized, you know, I'm one of the good players from Bermuda. Then I quickly realized, oh, wait a minute. Nah, you're not at that level, mate. You have to now find the ways. How can you be better? You have to be special as well. You know, you're from Bermuda. No one knows where Bermuda is. So that has to be a reality that you have to be special, which means you have to put in the hard work. You have to have the accountability, and it has to be 24/7. And if you want to be a footballer, it has to be 24/7 in every single thing you do, from nutrition to your working out to your sleep to your playing. Has to be 20. You have to be obsessed with it. And with the program I'm launching now, even now I try to, if I meet a player and they want to work with me, I do position-specific training if that's what they want. If you're a center midfielder, I'm not going to train you like a winger. I'm not just going to throw around cones and say, okay, dribble, do this. With your head down and you're just dribbling, when do you do that in the game? Everything must be football-related, game-related to improve them. So I think, again, for your question, you have to take players abroad, and that's what Brazilians doing. Get them in that environment. It changes your mind, changes your mindset, and that's what, honestly, that's what I was blessed with, being exposed to different environments, and I knew, you know what, that's where I want to be. So I found the ways, and again, even with David Bascom, he helped me sign with my first club in USL. When he had his Bascom camps, he had the School of Excellence where he had football-related things. We had community service, and we had education. We had it for a 2-week program. And even that showed me how to be a student athlete. So more programs like that can help just condition our children to know what it takes, to give them the tools and the knowledge to, you know, reach the next level.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by David Bascom.
Go Macro started up at the beginning of the millennium in Wisconsin in the U.S. with macrobiotic farming in mind, motivated by the pursuit of health through balanced nutrition. Go Macro is a family-owned company dedicated to living and promoting a natural, whole food-based lifestyle. Like most whole food businesses, Go Macro is also dedicated to bringing you the flavors they love. This month, we're featuring Go Macro Vegan Organic Granola and Coconut, Sunflower Seed Butter and Chocolate, and Coconut Almond Butter Chocolate Chip Macro Bars. Lindos, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Well, good evening, Mr. Bascom. Thank you for joining. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about youth football, and the component that you bring is a program that has been developed in many different ways and centered around the girls of late. Looking to work with Dennis's group and Brian's group. When that conversation started, how did you kind of receive it, or how did it come across?
Yeah, first of all, good evening, and I appreciate this conversation. And it was easy. The conversation, I met Brian, and Brian gave me a call in reference with how can we bring things together, to move things forward, right? Dr. Simmons said it earlier, is that we got to come together. We got to figure this thing out, right? And I'm excited about the partnership and the relationship. But I'm so frustrated that it's so long. Yeah, we keep talking about coming together. We're gonna sing all these songs, right? But the biggest thing that stops us from our development and that stops us from being together is that fear. We have great fear in our beautiful country in Bermuda because everybody's afraid that somebody's gonna look over the fence, and see what they're doing instead of saying, you know what, let me open up the door and let's try to figure this thing out, right? Everybody has a special place. When you're talking about Bermuda as you're talking about not just a paradise for visitors, this is a paradise for sports. I mean, everything, that the climate, the culture there. But the one thing is that, and it's been touched on because I've been watching, is that if we don't figure it out, you know how much young people we lose with sports every year?
Yep.
Let's think about this process, right? Because we get to a space where we get very selfish and we need to change. We talked about education, and one of the biggest things, I got into education, basic high school education. I had to learn about education because I wasn't understanding as a professional athlete how do I get young people in football understanding the importance of education. I said, how could I tell a young man stay in school if I have no idea what education can do for him? I had no clue as a professional athlete. And on tour, I went to seminars and learning there. I had my one speaking engagement when I was working for the Center for College and Career Readiness and realized, hold up, having a homework buddy program is not embedding education into a sport. No, it didn't make sense to me. So what the biggest thing is that we got to ask when it comes in, for me, in my opinion, when I ask these questions, when it's got to do with education for complexity, so a young person can do a complexity grill, we got to understand the language. We got to take the education where we are from that language and embed it into our sports is number one. The second thing is that when I'm looking at education and looking at, we got 28, probably more, probably less, not sure, UEFA B licensed coaches in our beautiful country. But if our young people are not at high learners, those UEFA licenses are not going nowhere because our young people cannot do complexity training. Listen, I'm seeing it here in the pros. I got some of my professional athletes that I'm finding myself having to teach. If I have a UEFA B license and I have to teach young people, think about it, right? There's a difference between teaching and coaching. As a pro, I should not be teaching my professional athletes. If I have to teach them, I have a problem. Why should I tell a young man that he has to open up his body at a professional level? Why should, when I have my UEFA B license, because we got them all in Bermuda, which is awesome, but who are we actually? And then I got to teach little people, right? So I'm kind of like I'm excited, when I talk to, Dennis and it was so excited about it because, this is the only thing things can work if we're able to open up our minds and kind of be available to, let people in your house. We did it back for days, letting people in, but have no fear, right? I have no fear. I'm looking to see what I can bring to the table. And the one thing I like about what Dennis has been doing, these guys have been very consistent. and to stay consistent. And when people was talking about you, because I know it's like, okay, yeah, don't go to this club. No, but when I'm seeing the outcome, I went down to visit the school, Calverton. And the one thing, and Dr. Simmons would appreciate this, because it's when I went, the first thing I looked at, Dr. Simmons, I looked at the culture and the climate of a school. I said, this is unbelievable. I mean, you talk about culture-related learning. I didn't even think I'd be able to speak this type of language as a footballer until I got to understand the importance of education. I mean, I got young people going to Duke. I'm talking about outside the game. But what I realized, because I'm one of those guys, is that, I don't want little people going anywhere to school. I just don't want to go anywhere. When I walked into the school and I, talking to the headmaster, and I said, unbelievable. Just watching I said, this is a place for my young people in Bermuda. First thing I said, Brian, you're right there. I said, this is a place. And I fell in love with the school. Then I realized, I think I got 3 Bermuda grass fields. And guess what? And the little people can't go nowhere. It's not like they could go down the street, go to the mall. Oh, no, they are stuck. I said, what a great environment. But it was easy. And I just wanted to, the one thing about, and I was asking Mr. Braun, is that, what is the purpose? What is the vision? What's the idea? And what does the structure look like? And what is the next steps? And here we are. I'm excited because the opportunity I go for my young women in Bermuda, but also my young players up here. I love it because it's not just the game. It's not just the game. And I hope that parents are listening, because I heard earlier when we was talking about the importance of making sure our young people understand and parents understand. When you're sending your little people anywhere, you must give them and hold them, those teachers, footballers, coaches, to the highest standards. Because how is that I send my little person to class and then I want to tell the classroom and the teacher, okay, I'm going to be on you. How come they're not getting this? How come they're not getting that? But then when I send them to my coach, I don't ask the same questions. Those are the things that are so, and that's what I loved about Dennis and the standards that's been put in place for growth. I'm excited. My team up here is pumped up. Yeah, we are pumped. MedStar, we just signed on a new deal with an apparel company. I mean, all my staff, we can't wait to get down to Calverton. But what I can't wait to do, I'm excited about, is the transitional program that we're going to help put in place with Dennis's group, transitioning our young people from Bermuda, because it's a culture shift. You can't just send them to school. Parents, come on, parents. Let's go send them and then just, you guys take care of them. So there's a shift that we're looking to do to kind of help them with a mental transition, a physical transition, because our young people need to be made accountable. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping that we're able to help bring. Also, we won the Girls Academy in Bermuda. I mean, I'm excited. My plans have gotten the next opportunity. So sorry for running on, because I got to get excited. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it right there.
All right, we're also joined by Jason Bott, who is part of the DC United program, another feeder program that Dennis is working with. Good evening, Jason. How are you?
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good. What role in this part of helping Bermuda youngsters, and we're talking specific about Bermuda youngsters right now. I know you guys' program is well diverse, but what role does DC United, their program, play in this collaboration?
Yeah. So it's an interesting one. So a few years ago, we only had a program for domestic players, U.S. players, and it was a way for our academy to just get players from sort of all over the U.S. and international players at the time couldn't play in our academy, but we had a lot of interest from overseas players. So we wanted to try and find a way in which we could help student athletes that were motivated, football players, always also motivated to get a better education and sort of help bridge that gap. So the main sort of help we get from DC, a lot of it is how do we get players to play in college? Well, kind of as you're saying, the coaching part of it and understanding what it takes to be a player at that level. So we have the methodology, we have the training program that basically, that the academy uses on these players. So now they're exposed to a higher level of coaching. They're exposed to a higher level of competition in some ways. And, obviously on the DC side, if there are players that we believe can sort of make that jump, we have the pathways for them. But, obviously our main goal is for the players that come in to value education first. And we want to help them on their way. And, on the, sort of on the back burner, if there are guys that can make the jump, we definitely have the resources to help them with that. So yeah, no, it's been great having guys so far, and just seeing some of them in their transition has been really, really good.
Coach Keita, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions at this moment.
Okay. Maceo?
Yeah, just closing remarks, man. I'm really excited about these conversations and this platform to have these type of conversations and gauging people's passion for this conversation. I mean, everyone knows my history about being outspoken publicly about pushing the envelope to make improvements, and I think Dr. Liu speaks of that we have to do that. We have to do these things for ourselves to get better results. Get better results for us. We have to rely on our resources that are such as what Dennis is doing, and also we have resources in the UK. We have resources in Canada, and we have to do what these guys are doing, is building bridges to create pathways. And I use a word all the time about being inclusive rather than exclusive. And this is what we have to start doing, to be inclusive, so we can grow our sports and make our sports relevant to our country. So it gets priority.
Brother Punch?
I'm just going to finish closing remarks. Hi, David. How you doing? Good. Yeah, again, like as I said before, I kind of like the historian. I speak to David quite a bit, but I just want to say that this is new for all of us, and I'm just grateful that our country is a small country, but I still think we're heading the right. We're making these steps. At least we're making steps, and we've got to listen more, and we got to do. And like David says, we got to be more active. And I think really we are, but it's still a start. So I am really excited, and I'm glad to be a part of this. And Nikita, and I wish you well with the girls team. I know you're in good spread. I know you're in good state with David. I can tell you that. But for all of us, again, I'm just glad to be a part of it. And thank you all for sharing all the information that you have to help our country, first of all.
Cool.
Thank you very
want
much.
to say, Dr. Liu, I think I'm going to take off that challenge that you've thrown out, that we need to have that conversation. We need to get people in the room. The one thing I always say is, when an invitation is extended, if you choose not to be a part of it, then you are the problem, not a part of the solution.
I'm sorry, I thought we were on questions, but I do have a statement, and I want to encourage people to be a part of what Brazilian and also BFLA. Not to have a conflict of interest, as I am the technical director for the BFLA, but I don't think people understand what those programs are for. A lot came up. I took a lot of notes, and I heard a lot in this discussion, and everyone's right. You have people that will say, don't go to that program because of whatever. They're not even understanding that program is only going to help your athlete. So when David and I started this program, it wasn't to have teams. It was to do exactly what Brazilian was doing, just exclusively for females. It ended up being a team because we know on the girls' side, there were not a lot of club teams at the time. If the club teams that are out there now and a few more were available, we would have stuck to just developing players and just sending them out to the clubs. Ours took a different turn. So it's a little bit more difficult for us to even help, because the first thing people do or say is, well, they're going to take your players. So, you know, a lot of times clubs have to focus on training for the next match. And there are a lot of athletes that miss that basic technical football and stuff because coaches are training twice a week to beat their opponent on the weekend. And so there's a lot of gaps, especially on the boys' side, right? But I think that after this conversation, people will know what these programs are for. They are simply to just develop players so that they can, not even develop players so that we can win a World Cup, but develop players so that they can get an education. And I think that once Bermudians become open to programs like this, it's so many on the island. Another program jumped up the other day. I saw someone else is doing individual football and skill stuff. You know, a lot of times people think, people just doing this for money. You know, David will tell you that money is the furthest thing away from our minds. It's definitely the development of the player. So I just want to encourage people to get their players, get their children involved in these programs because they're development programs so that they can achieve their goals. So thank you. I didn't even know Brazilian was still really, really involved. I hadn't heard Brazilian in a while, but this is amazing. And when David and I spoke about the collaboration, I was excited because now we have something else besides just IMG, you know? So thank you.
Brian, I want to touch on one thing before we go. A lot of people, when they're putting their young person into an environment for a particular sport, the education component is just as important with the school that you're affiliated with. In high school, we have a lot of kids who are challenged in developing learning. And they utilize sports to do that, to express themselves and so forth. How important is the education part for Calvert?
Very, very important. I mean, we have tutors, we have study hall. We're going to give these kids all the support that we can give them. You know, and Jason and I, we will always, you know, if a kid is really falling behind, then football can take a back seat until we get him caught up. And then he could be able to play football again, right? So that's a big piece of what we do. I'm in constant contact with Dr. Lou when we're talking about students and getting educational background on them. You know, it's all a piece. So just in my closing, right, I got to say this, right, because I always, you know, Bermuda first, right? And all of the things that we're doing is for our country. Right? So everyone listening out there, there's no egos here. David, Dennis, Dr. Lou. I mean, we guys just come, we have our conversations, we have disagreements, we jump on each other's bandwagons, we're fans and cheerleaders for each other, and we move, and we have been moving this program forward, right? Dennis and I have been together, Dr. Lou, for 7 years. Now David is here, and now we're going into girls. Now we're getting it going, right? So, you know, just anybody listening out there, you know, people listening on the tribal piece, because that came up a lot, right? On who you're with, what you're doing, why you're doing it. You got to put that stuff aside, and you got to put our country out there to figure out how we're going to help our country. And that's a big piece of Bermuda football and BFA, because Jason and I are doing things with Cayman Islands that will make your head spin on how far or how quickly they can get things and get behind things, and how slow we are in Bermuda to get things done. It's time to get things done. It's time to help these kids, and it's time to move forward.
Brother Dennis, I know we often talk about what some people label kids as problem kids. Can't sit still, can't do this, can't do that. But football and sport in general is a way for them to kind of get out. At Bermuda Brazilian Football School, I've seen myself some of the same kids. How do you guys work with that temperament to kind of channel them to where they are now? And some of them are productive citizens.
Well, one of the things that we always look at is having them being accountable for their own actions. And it's constant communication. You'll find that a lot of these kids coming through didn't have the the nurturing, and the father figures. And, you know, and then I tell them my story about not having father around and stuff like that, that basically has them paying attention, you know. But at the end of the day, we have to make these young kids accountable. No matter how good they think they are in Bermuda, there's always somebody outside of Bermuda who's working harder and who's better for you. And one thing I'll say is that since being in partnership with Brian with the Bermuda Southern National Bermuda's Brazilian Football School, is that the people from Calverton, we have basically put Bermuda on the map in Calvert, Maryland, Huntington, Maryland. So if you go to Huntington, Maryland now, they'll know about Bermuda because over 200 of them have actually been to Bermuda. We've had them in Bermuda twice. In small tournaments and stuff like that. So we are basically putting Bermuda on the map outside of our country. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you know, what we love to do. You know, when it comes to, like Peter said, if it was about the money, I mean, are we poor? You know, but to me, it's not about the money. It's about educating our kids, getting our kids out of this environment as early as possible, educating our parents. Educating our parents, because I got a lot of calls from my brother Brian, you know, about the Bermuda boys who be sent up at times not paying attention. You know, in Bermuda, you'll find that Johnny is taken to training by his mother. You know, and then we send them away. And this is where David's talking about the integration between Bermuda and America now. We're going to have to train these young men and women about how to act when we go from Bermuda to Maryland. You know, little Johnny's mother will email that Coach Braun in Bermuda to say that Johnny cannot come training because he has homework. When you go away to school and be a student athlete, they don't want to hear that. So you have to learn how to balance that time between schoolwork and playtime. And like Coach Brian said, if you can't balance that, football's put aside until you're able to do that. So what developing these programs in order to set the path for our young people in Bermuda to get out of here as fast and as smooth as they can.
Dr. Liu, as an administrator, how easy is it to work, and give us some parting words? How is it to work with this group of people and get what you need to get done to make things a lot better?
But I'm excited to work with the group that we have here, and it's visionary and it's action oriented. And I'm going to go right back to the challenge that I put to you, Earl. That's the action that is needed right now. We can't keep asking, as David said, you know, he's frustrated. Well, I'm 62, 63. Punches older than me, so we're just as frustrated or more. Right? So, but the action begins with us. You know, we're talking about it. And I believe that nothing stops us from laying out the platform and the invitation. And it says, under the auspices of Island Stats, with the sanctioning of the Bermuda Football Association and Department of Education, we are hosting for the purpose of the development of football across Bermuda, overseas, locally, internationally, all of the above. It has the college piece, it has the professional piece, all of it. We have to speak to all those things because we have the personnel. Right here in this platform, we can speak to all of those areas, right? So the sooner we act upon it, the better. And I believe we'll pull in our affiliate bodies. Let's send the invitation to them like anything else. We challenge everyone to send a representative. None of them say they were not invited.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Mr. Bascom, parting words, but with your teaming up with Dennis and David, and Dennis and Brian and Dr. Liu, are there any opportunities for local coaches to be involved in your side of it?
Yes. Yeah. So what our plan is that we're looking to get one of our coaches, female coaches in Bermuda, actually a part of the coaching staff at Calverton. They will be up there for 4 to 6 months. Okay, so that's the next step. I have talked to one of the coaches. I can't release no name yet until we get everything finalized. And but I'm excited. And those are the pathways as well, right? Okay, opportunity. Not only looking for a coach up there just to coach, but to also learning how to be an entrepreneur. And the other side of it is that there's so many other opportunities at the school. So that's a part of the career pathway. All right, and that's the one thing. I also had a great conversation with the college recruiter today. It's my second conversation with the young man and with my staff. And one of the things I was calling him very mindful of is that when we're recruiting for college, it's in a platform that not only the young person goes to a college that actually that wants them, but these are colleges that actually suits them and meet their needs as an athlete or student athlete, because it's very important, because 50% of the young athletes that go to college after 2 years, they drop out because that college may not suit them. That was one of the requirements. The other thing is that I talked to him and mentioned is that even when we're looking for recruiting and we're going through a 4-year process of finding those colleges for my young people, not everybody's going to get to college. So I asked them to build a template to also help these young people finding out ways to research job opportunities for themselves. Yeah, these career pathways. So those are the things that's been put in place. So I'm really excited about this, and I can only encourage to all my parents, if it's Brazilian, if it's BFLA, really ask those questions, right? Really ask those questions when you're looking for growth and you're looking to for higher standards. Ask the right questions. Do some education. Google, okay? But it's very important. A very small percentage of the young people, okay, get an opportunity to go pro. A very small percentage also get the opportunity to have a full scholarship. Yeah, but I want you to ask the right questions. Make sure that no matter what program you're going to or process you're going to, that they have the interest of your young people. But parents, open yourself up for learning, okay? Because change is not easy when somebody has to tell you, parents, that, you know what, you need to do these things because you also will be made accountable when you be a part of this process. So, but now I appreciate everything and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Jason, any parting words?
Yeah, just I think obviously for on our end, we've had 8 guys come through the program, two last year that graduated, 6 that are graduating this year, and my experience so far with working with student athletes.
He froze.
Yeah.
He froze.
It's been great, and yeah, I would encourage again for those that are here watching and listening, that value that education, that this is these are good opportunities to sort of help your son or daughter. So, but no, I mean, I'd love to try and come out to Bermuda again. I've been once. I'm looking forward to visiting again. But no, you guys you're doing a great work. Doing a great job, and we look forward to working with more talented male and female student athletes.
Dennis, before we go, can you just let people know how one can get in touch with you guys at Bermuda Brazilian Football School in the event that they want to get some more information about how they can join you guys and then make that next step? You got to unmute your mic.
www.bbfschool.com, and just write anything you want to write, questions. We should be launching very shortly in relation to what we're going to be doing for the upcoming year. So I just want to tell people to stay tuned for some big things that are coming on the pipelines. I would say that aesthetic of having the building relationship with David. I think David is a national treasure in Bermuda that at times I think is underappreciated. And you know, we're just going to go from strength to strength. And at the end of the day, the biggest component is going to be the child who we look to develop outside of Bermuda. So again, thank you guys for having us here, and it's been a real pleasure.
And we do look forward to the progress and the process in which you guys are going to undertake for the development of our young people in Bermuda. Folks, we want to thank you for joining us tonight on the Islandstad Football Show. We'll be back next week Sunday with more Islandstad Football Show. Have a good night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, you too.
Bye. Thank you.